On this episode of the Palm Beach Current, I'm joined by Greg Ross Smith, General Manager of PMI Palm Properties, to discuss property management here in Palm Beach County. Excited to be joined today by Greg Ross Smith. Greg is the General Manager at PMI Palm Properties. Greg, how are you today?
I'm good, Chris. Very well. Lovely to be on.
Well, thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit about yourself, in terms of what brought you to Palm Beach County and the type of work that you're doing at PMI Palm Properties.
Oh, it is a long story as to how I got here, Chris, and I'll give you the
That's what we're
abridged
here
version.
for. That's what we're here for, Greg.
All right. Well, I'm not from around here. You could probably tell by my accent. I was born in South Africa, lived there for a while. We moved to the Middle East, lived there for a while, did my schooling in England and my secondary, tertiary schooling in England. Started my career back in the Middle East before bouncing to London, then to Australia. From Australia back to London, then back to Australia with my wife, who I met in New York. We then bounced back to New York, then to California, and 5 years ago, almost to the day actually, we decided to move to Florida because we have family here. Florida just seemed to be an amazing state to move to at the time. Palm Beach County and Jupiter particularly seemed to be right for us, and we've never looked back. It's really been an absolute blessing to be here, and I've done some, career-wise, did a lot, but in my early years also did a bunch of investing in real estate, and through that experience realized how important property management was to the success of real estate investors, but also to the comfort of the tenants that live in their properties. And I felt drawn to I was looking for a business to start or to buy into, and I landed in property management based on that experience, knowing I could do it better than I experienced, knowing I could do it very, very well based on my mindset. And so, for the last year, I've been running and growing this property management business based in Jupiter, PMI Palm Properties.
Okay, excellent. I mean, I don't think I've quite ever heard a story like that in terms of the trips from Australia to London to all these places in between. So pretty interesting just in that. What is I'm just going to go off topic here for a second, but what is the real estate
Mhm.
market, real estate, the way it's done look differently? How does it look differently between here in the UK and Australia and in South Africa, all these different places that you've lived? Is it pretty common? Is there a common thread to it, or is it completely different?
I even though I've lived in all those places, I couldn't really answer this question very well. When I was in South Africa, I was a kid, and all I knew was that my parents provided a house for me to live in. I didn't realize that there were rentals. I had no idea. Australia, I was just renting. I had a landlord who didn't care very much, but I had no idea that property management was a thing. Same living in London. I only really became aware of how real estate works in the last 20 years living here in the US. So that's I have deep knowledge of this market, but nothing from anywhere previous, to be honest with you.
Right. And let's look at this market, right? Because we live in a place where real estate is on the front of everybody's mind all the time. This whole area has had a metamorphosis, I would say, in the last 6 or 7 years, since COVID, certainly, where prices
Certainly.
have skyrocketed. People have migrated here in droves, especially from up north. And with that, people now are looking at the area a little bit differently. And so when you look at a company like yours, I think people say, "Oh, I'm a snowbird. I go back up north. My house will be okay while I'm gone." Or I got a job transfer. I want to keep my property because the property value is so high. I'll just go ahead and manage it somehow myself. Right. So take me through a little bit, Greg, what PMI Properties is going to do from a whole perspective of real estate property management. Because I think the common misconception that comes with companies like yours is people are just there to collect the rent, and then they find a new tenant, and then they collect the rent again. And I know there's so much more that goes into it. So tell us a little bit more about the clients that you have and the types of services that you provide.
Absolutely, great question. So there are two channels, I suppose, that we could speak to here. The first channel being, or the first service, a bundle that we offer, is management of rental properties. So there are there are thousands of rental properties here in Palm Beach County because it is a fantastic place to own rental properties. Not necessarily because they're going to cash flow like they might do in, say, Kansas City, Missouri, or Indianapolis, but the appreciation that we have access to here in Palm Beach County is phenomenal, and often investors will hold on to rental properties here for the appreciation. So I've mentioned investors. I've also, and you mentioned two folks that move within the state or they move out of state, but they want to hold on to that property because it's going to appreciate. They often think before they come to me that they can manage the property themselves until they get that first phone call on a Friday night that the HVAC is broken, the drain line is clogged, or there's a flood in the front yard. Right, as soon as those headaches hit, they realize the benefit of having someone like me with all eyes on the properties that I manage on behalf of my clients. So essentially, what we're offering is peace of mind because things do go wrong. If you're a homeowner, you know it is a non-stop job maintaining a property to keep it working. You may not notice it when you live in it because you can fix things on the weekend. But when you're not there and you have tenants who are rightly so demanding that their property is maintained in a livable condition, that's when those owners who are out of state realize, man, I wish I wasn't doing this for myself. So that's what we offer: peace of mind to those clients who have rental properties. There is also the other service bundle, let's call it, which falls into what we call HomeWatch. So this is maintenance of properties that are vacant because the owners are seasonal residents. Let's say they're snowbirds, so they spend their summers out of state. Uh, it is really a very good idea to have someone drop by that property to make sure that all the systems are working. There's no mold growing. The AC system hasn't blocked up, causing humidity, which causes mold. And often insurance companies, and this is often not known by those homeowners, require that if a property is going to be vacant for a certain period of time, that there is someone going by that property to make sure that it is in good working condition, good working order, and of course, and maybe less of an issue with some of our clients, but that from a security point of view, the home hasn't been breached and is being squatted in. So those are the services that we offer. On the HomeWatch side, we also work with the aged community who may not be living in their own home for a period of time if they're in aged care, either temporarily or sometimes permanently. We come in and we'll look after those homes for those aged clients or on behalf of their kids who don't know what to do with this property whilst mom or dad is not living there. So those are the things we do. And really at the highest level, it's peace of mind to all of our clients that their homes are being well taken care of and those investments are being looked after.
And on your team, Greg, who are the people that go into this, right? Let's say I have a rental property. I'd like your team to
Mhm.
manage it. And that person, your tenant, does call on Friday night at 7 o'clock and says the HVAC
Mhm.
system is out. Take me through that.
Sure.
How is your team going to execute that and make sure the tenant is happy and ultimately the landlord is happy as well?
We are a relatively new business, and as such, I, as the owner, care very much that my tenants and my clients are looked after very, very well. So I have a good relationship with my clients and a great relationship with my tenants because I've been with them through what is a pretty stressful time, that is moving. I'm always there helping them move, helping them get the utilities turned over. Point I'm making is I have a good relationship with these tenants, and as a result, they are usually reaching out to me directly when these issues occur. So recently, we had a tenant in North Palm who had a burst T-junction pipe in the front yard. It was a Friday night. They had no idea what to do, and water was gushing out. So I in the first instance, called the utility company to make sure that they would come out to turn off the mains, and then engage with an emergency plumber to get that fix put in place so that the tenant wasn't out of water for the weekend. So I could do that because I have the vendors in place and the systems in place to be able to call on those relationships to get those vendors in there on an emergency basis to get the fixes done. Same applies for HVACs. They always seem to go down on a Friday night,
Every
and
time.
I have every time. So I have good relationships with HVAC companies. I often will advise my clients to have service contracts so that we are well covered. So when the tenants call, I then get in touch with the people that I trust and get those problems fixed. Um, if they don't contact me directly, there's also a tenant portal that folks can come in through. And of course, nowadays you can't get away from AI. And our maintenance coordinator AI system will often help triage smaller, less urgent maintenance fixes, either for to be addressed the following week, or to help the tenant fix those things themselves quickly and easily.
Yeah, for whatever reason, those AC systems tend to go down right at that point, and also on your smoke detectors, the batteries need to be
That's right.
changed at 2:30 in the morning. I swear there's some
Yeah,
manufacturing defect that makes that do that. Greg,
yeah, absolutely.
eh, what trends are you seeing in the Palm Beach County rental market right now?
Rents are going up. We're seeing a little micro rise in rents, which is really important to know. When we suggest rental prices to our clients, if we overprice, we're going to sit vacant for ages. If we underprice, we're leaving money on the table. So we're seeing a slight rise in rents at the moment, which is interesting because that is leading into, I think that's coming off the back of a really a big increase in demand in the last 3 months for rental properties, which has now really softened into sort of as we head into quarter three. There's less supply, there's less demand. Things are very quiet right now from a rental point of view. I'm also seeing a lot of clients come to me who have tried to sell. They've had their properties listed for 2, 3, 4, even 6 months. They've got very few offers and they haven't been able to sell their properties. There could be a myriad of reasons for that, but the bottom line is that I'm seeing a lot of clients who tried to sell, switch to renting because they understand that renting will bring an income, pay their expenses, and give them access to that appreciation that uh, they will certainly enjoy in the next couple of years as the market adjusts and those home values go up.
Are you noticing more people investing in the area right now, or does that seem to have cooled off as well?
The majority of my clients are um, one or two property investors or second homeowners, less so at the moment investors. So I don't really have as much a finger on the pulse for what investors are doing, but I am involved in a number of investor groups, and investors are always looking for properties in Palm Beach County. There are a number of pockets that are really ripe for growth, for improvement, and for appreciation. So there are always investors sort of looking for those deals. I don't think there's been a change in that activity at all.
Are there particular communities or areas that people are really interested to get into right now? I mean, if you had to pinpoint one
Mm.
area that is a red hot market and usually is pretty active, what community or what area would that be?
Yeah, many of the investors and again, it depends on the strategy that these investors are sort of working in. But for the most part, I speak a lot to investors who are looking for value add properties or properties that will experience a lot of appreciation in the next few years, and they're always looking for those pockets that are somewhat depreciated or depressed, surrounded by areas of affluence. And down here in Palm Beach County, we have, of course, the Riviera Beach area, certain zip codes that I think are really ripe for development. Those neighborhoods are typically the home prices are typically lower in value, and perhaps a little less well maintained, but they're beautiful. The area is beautiful, and investors coming in who turn those properties around will see fantastic upside in the next few years.
What do you think surprises first-time real estate investors the most?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've made this mistake too, which is thinking that it's a hands-off, easy money game. That you buy an investment property, you put a renter in it, happy days. The mailbox money's going to arrive every month, and I'm going to become a millionaire. They don't realize that in actual fact, it should be treated as a business. And as with any business, you need the right people in the seat to manage that business. So often, that mistake of thinking it's hands off, they very quickly get corrected on that when that first phone call comes in for a broken AC, for example. They then realize they need someone on their team to manage that property and make sure that investment and that business runs the way that it should do. So yeah, that's the biggest mistake I see, is thinking that it's easy and thinking they can do it themselves.
What advice would you give that first time investor, right? I mean, and you're right. People tend to think, okay, I'm going to go buy that rental property and I'm going to watch the money flow into my mailbox. And yes, in theory, that would work out great, right? But if you were looking to do that, what would be the advice you would give to someone doing that for the first time?
It's really about getting the underwriting correct. So there are any number of software, and you can build your own Excel spreadsheet that will underwrite deals for you correctly. And the biggest piece of advice I can give is to make sure that the underwriting is correct. Now, of course, everyone gets told hold a 5 to 8% reserve for maintenance, hold reserve for capital expenditure. But I would say that if your deal doesn't work, if you add 8 to 10% for management, it's not a good deal, because the margins will be too thin. And I would guarantee that after a year or so trying to manage yourself, you are going to most likely need someone to help you, a manager like me. And if you haven't factored that into your equation, and the deal doesn't work, if you factor that in, then it's not the right deal. So that would be my piece of advice: is, as always, do underwriting well, but make sure you factor in the expenses of management in there, just in case you need it down the track.
Do you offer that type of guidance as well, Greg, or do you have someone else that you're connected to that is almost a package deal where you'll do the property management and advise on the buying side?
I can certainly advise on the buying side. We have fantastic software that we use that will fully underwrite a deal and pull out all the financials over a long period of time. I also have an amazing friend, partner, who's a financial advisor, who does my financial advice for my business and personal, who I've sent several clients to when they are thinking more holistically about how owning property, selling property, or renting property fits into their financial plan more broadly. He's amazing, and I'd happily any day connect people with him if the more technical um, uh, uh, um, advice that I can give is not what they need.
Excellent. What about tenant screening, right? I see this
Mm.
at times. I've heard horror stories, I've heard great stories, but how important is that? And take me through that process a bit. You get a new tenant, what are the things that people need to be on the lookout here for? What are you typically looking at when you screen a tenant?
Tenant screening really is the start of the success story of owning a rental property that works. Um, we always look for tenants at a very high level who are going to, of course, pay the rent on time, and look after that property as though it were their own. We run all of our tenants through a very standardized, deep screening process that will look at things like credit score and credit history, income verification, employment verification, past rental or eviction history, criminal background. Essentially, as much as we can know about someone without violating fair housing rules, we will know to help our clients make the best decisions about the tenants that they bring into their properties. And honestly, it is worthwhile holding out for the right tenant who will be that for you, rather than rushing into a tenant just to get the rent started, because that is a false saving. It's going to cost you down the track.
A- And I'm interested in that. I mean, I think if, let's say we had a property, you interviewed five different clients that applied, and
Mhm.
you're looking at those 5 clients. I think most people are familiar more with the buying and selling side of this. Hey, I had 6 offers on my house, and you're looking at the offer
Mhm.
and what it brings to the table. But on the rental side, what you mentioned fair housing, right? And I think some people
Mhm.
may not understand this. So we have 5 applicants. The 5 applicants, you ran all of their financial history, criminal history, credit check, all of those things. How do you legally make a determination on which way you go while satisfying fair housing and be in the best interests of the client?
That is an awesome question. It's a really important question, and it is so important for us to be very standardized in our approach to this. Our standard policy is that we'll screen clients on a first come first serve basis, and as soon as we screen a client who meets all the requirements and is eligible, they are offered the property. We won't screen all 5 and then pick the best. That gets us into hot water. So again, just to restate, we screen on a first come first serve basis, and the first eligible is the first that gets the property.
Excellent. No, I think that's a good way to look at it because I think there's a lot of abuse in how these things are done. Um, and, maybe it isn't intentional, right? I mean, I think a lot of people just don't know how to properly do this. And then I also think when you're looking at a client managing a property themselves, they're thinking of their home in the best way they possibly can, right? If I have a potential tenant that's a non smoker, single, perfect credit, no pets, right? And then I have somebody that's bringing 6 people into a 1,000 square foot house with 3 dogs and a cat, and can we smoke outside? Okay, right? I mean, you have to understand the practicality of that, but I think it is important to mix in, the fair housing laws that have to be observed. So, very very interesting
Absolutely.
point there.
There is a second layer to this too, which is that we work with I think the biggest and best attorney in the rental space here in Florida, which means that our leases are watertight, which means that on behalf of our clients, if something goes wrong, we're able to take action to remove tenants who are not living up to their end of the bargain. So it's one thing to find a great tenant. It's the second piece of that equation is to put them on a fantastic lease that is actionable. Many self-managing investors or homeowners, rental owners may find a great tenant, but then put them on a pro forma uh, um, lease that maybe AI wrote for them or they found on the internet. And if that is not watertight, it doesn't matter that you found a great tenant. If something goes wrong and you can't get them out or you can't take legal action, well, then you're again in hot water. So we have fantastic attorney who writes the best leases, and that's another layer of protection that we ensure that we provide to our clients.
No, it's a great point. And honestly, if I'm sitting there listening to this or watching this right now, and I'm in this position of owning a property and on the fence as to whether I hire a property manager, I gotta say, Greg, you have all the bases covered, right? When you start telling me you have lawyers that support you have vendors that support you, and really you take care of all the things that they don't want to have to take care of, while at the same time making money and they can look at the model before they even enter into the agreement. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, and I think it's really smart representation for someone to have that isn't willing to put forth the amount of time and effort that needs to
Mm,
be done in these properties. It is not easy, and like you said, it is a business. This is not something to just say, "Hey, here's my home, have at it," and then when things go wrong, get upset about it, right? All of us know whether you live in a home that you own, that you rent, things are going to go wrong. Not daily, but often enough that you have to be ready for it. So I think
absolutely.
your service is definitely one that should be featured, highlighted, and especially in an area like ours where there is so much activity all the time of people coming and going and such an attraction to want to be here. That's an exciting part of what you do. Greg, on every episode that we do, we ask a set of questions that are locally driven. And so I'm going to go into that part of it now. The
Okay.
first question I wanted to ask you, you mentioned an accounting firm, your financial advisor. Who is that? And let's shout him out here. It seems like somebody you're very happy with.
It's my good friend Patrick Sandner. His business is a Landing Financial Group. He's a great guy, such an interesting background, and his business is very successful because he cares a lot. He he cares more than anyone I know about educating his friends and his clients on financial matters. In fact, he runs a whole series of educational um, classes, and yeah, great guy.
Amazing. Okay, that's good. We'll try to highlight him. Maybe ask if he'd like to come on the show at some point. What's your
Sure.
favorite local restaurant here in the area? I mean, we ask everybody this question. We get a lot of the same answers. We get some places that no one's ever heard of. So let's see what you got, Craig.
Yeah, I have young kids, so my wife and I don't often get out for date night, but when we do, we're always at Food Shack. Um, Food is awesome. The atmosphere is really awesome. The food comes out very quick, and yeah, that's our favorite.
All right. And what about one hidden gem? This could be anything. I mean, you just mentioned your financial advisor, but any other hidden gems in the area that people should know about? Somebody that really helps you, whether they're in your business, your personal life, could be anything, a doctor, a restaurant. What's that one thing that you really like?
I love a networking group that I'm going to give you more than just one, by the way.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
I love a networking group that I'm part of. It's called PRE, Professional Referral Exchange. I met amazing through that group, and they're growing like crazy. I know. There's BNIs. There's a whole bunch of them, but this one, for me, of all the ones I've tried, has been amazing because just the type of people that are in that group. My second one, this is more personal. So so my family and I, we've got a Generation Church up there on Center Street, and that for our community that we built around us of people who are like-minded, who are caring and loving, that has been amazing for my family. So that's my second hidden gem if people don't know about it.
All right, amazing. I appreciate that. Finally, this is your opportunity to pitch the business. In closing, how can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you from a property management perspective? What are the contact details that they can follow up with?
Thank you. If you own a property that you're thinking of renting, if you rent a property that you wish you weren't, because you're managing it yourselves, then please do feel free to reach out to me personally. My email address is Greg, that's Greg, at PMI Palm Properties. Uh, my website is www.pmipalmproperties.com, and my phone number 561-788-3094. I'll personally answer your emails and your phone calls, and would love to get involved in helping you manage any and all properties that you have, whether they are rentals, seasonal. We can handle it all.
Well, Greg, having you on here is fantastic. General Manager at PMI Palm Properties. We are fortunate to have you in the area, and thank you so much for your time.